The Right Hook with Nationwide UK Ireland. Part of the world's largest building society. NationwideUK.ie. NewsTalk 106 to 108.
Welcome back to The Right Hook here on NewsTalk. Do send a 30-cent text if you wish to 53106. Who was that guy on about Europe? He's one of the few people I heard talking sense on Europe, says Simon Thompson. That was Professor Gwyn Prinz, regular on this programme from the London School of Economics before 6 o'clock. And Loretta says, I've been listening to NewsTalk all day. The Miss Piggy comment has been mentioned on all programmes. Nothing about the plight of Somalia and the horrifying images seen on television. Have we all gone mad? Sadly, Rita, yes, we've all gone absolutely bonkers. But rest assured, the Right Hook is looking at the situation of drought in the Horn of Africa. And before the end of the week, we will certainly be looking at it and talking to volunteers working in that area of the continent. Well, a report out now from the American Academy of Pediatrics outlines how sports and energy drinks are being misused. And I'm joined now by Professor Austin Darragh. You might recognize the voice. He was, of course, the doctor on the Gay Byrne show. And you might, if you're even older like me, you might remember his voice broadcasting on rugby matches on the radio. Professor Darragh, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much, George. I gave up the rugby commentaries when I heard you came into the
scene. Now then, it appears, and of which I probably am one, that I'm in a lot of confusion between sports drinks and energy drinks, and adolescents are often unaware of the difference in these products. You might explain the difference.
The difference is that, you're asking me, George?
Yes, please.
The sports drink could be replacing lost fluid and electrolytes. They're the salts in your bloodstream which keep the balance right. And the energy drinks artificially stimulate either the activity of the muscles so they can keep working for longer, utilizing residual energy which should not be used in that way.
Right. And what do they put in the energy drink to do this?
Caffeine.
But you wouldn't want to be giving your young kid truckloads of caffeine.
Well, you would not want to be given. In fact, George, I wrote about this, believe it or not, giving my age away now unbelievably, as far back as 1985. And caffeine, I said, was an innocuous stimulant and showed that it wasn't. And then later on, we published the central effects of caffeine in man in a book called Psychopharmacology, again in 1985. So people, I didn't make the message clear enough, which is very possible, or people just want to know.
But, I mean, it's really the problem with kids, and kids who want to get on the first 15 or the first 11 or win a tennis match or whatever, they think the answer is in a bottle or a can, and they aren't them, and all this stuff is freely available over the counter. I mean, the Irish Medicines Board has no role in this whatsoever, and nobody's reading what it says in the wrapper, so these kids have no idea what they're ingesting.
Well, not only do the kids not have an idea of what they're ingesting, but the adults around them are quaffing caffeine as if it was the greatest gift from heaven. And yet it is the most destructive chemical in the present world today. It impairs the prospect of having a good night's sleep, believe it or not. And without a good night's sleep, your next day's work, mentally and physically, will deteriorate.
Now, I'm not going to, because I'm afraid, I'm not going to talk to you about me and coffee. That'll be for a private conversation. But let's stay with young people for a moment. The difference there, folks, I've now got it clear. The energy drink contains probably a lot of caffeine and gives you a false high, if you like. On the other hand, the sports drink has electrolytes and all this sort of stuff, and replaces, hydrates you after exercise. But Austin, you pay, I don't know what you pay for these bottles of sports drinks. All you have to do is go to the tap, and you can rehydrate, can you not?
Yes, you can, provided, and here is a great mistake that people make. They say, oh, I drink a litre of water a day. Surely I'm rehydrating adequately. Maybe. But at this time of the year, it's probably appropriate to say to people, you know, when you go for a swim in the sea, and you're going to use the same togs again tomorrow, you're always advised by mum to go and wash them under the tap. And what do you do that for? To wash the salt out of your material in your togs, or otherwise your togs will stay wet all night. Why? Because the material keeps the sodium salts in, and that holds the water in. So, well, when you take water without salt, or if you have lost a lot of salt out of your body by perspiring, unless you have salt in your body, you will not retain the salt, the water which you've taken in.
Yeah, you remember us rugby players back in the 60s and 70s. When we went to the movie on a Saturday night, we were suddenly jumping up in the middle of the movie, clutching the back of our thigh because we cramped. And people who knew better often said to us, look, all you have to do is put some salt in a glass of water and you solve that problem. What children have to understand here is this is not actually rocket science. It's about replacing salt and adding water, isn't it?
That's
or
right.
am I too simple?
And you cannot hold salt in your body, water in your body, unless you have adequate salt in each of your cells. Now, I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, we're not supposed to take too much salt. Doctors are telling us don't take salt, it's bad for your heart, bad for blood pressure, and causes strokes. If you take too much. But if you don't get enough salt, then you cannot hold enough salt in all the cells, the trillions of cells in your body. As simple as that.
But the worrying
lactic acid
feature,
concentration, which causes your cramp.
But the worrying feature, though, Austin Darragh, is that across the shelves there are drinks and food supplements which are not liable to any control whatsoever that young sportsmen and women, and I'm talking about adolescents and children, not adults, are taking without any control or direction.
And because the children in school are learning more about sex than about sleep. I see so many children today who are suffering from the effects of chronic sleep lack. And that, in part, is the reason why the government are struggling now to find out how they're going to get children better at mathematics and scientific subjects. They cannot do it unless the children get adequate sleep to stimulate the ability to remember things. That's another day's work. That's not athletics, I admit. But I'm just simply saying the only way children will accept information is if they understand why it is being given.
All right. Now, to help people listening to you, the first thing they have to understand, the key difference they have to understand is the difference between an energy drink and a sports drink. By and large, their kid having a sports drink after engaging in exercise, by and large, is okay. Drinking energy drinks is not okay. Is it as simple as that?
Yes.
All
yes.
Right.
If the energy drink is based on caffeine, it's wrong.
And they'll find that on the label?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, right. Because this labelling is not subject to...
As far as I recollect, I'm thinking now back a number of years, it wasn't obligatory to have the concentration of caffeine in these preparations. In fact, I have seen bottles in the past, I'm talking now 20 years ago, where caffeine was put down as a flavouring.
Right. But some of these energy drinks, according to these American doctors at the Academy of Pediatrics, some of these energy drinks can have more than 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is the equivalent of 14 cans of soda.
Yes. Or two good strong cups of coffee.
But you wouldn't give that to your kid.
Yes, they do. Yes, they'd have them racing around the tracks in motor cars, wouldn't they? With that amount of caffeine.
All right, I'm so glad you explained it all.
Let me just explain about caffeine for 1 minute, George.
Please do.
It's not something which goes into your stomach and stays for a very short time in your body. Caffeine has a very long resident time in the body. An ordinary cup of coffee will have an elevation of the blood caffeine level to a certain height. Whatever that height is, it takes 5 hours for that blood level to come down to half that height. That's called the half-life. If it takes 5 hours to come down to the half-life, it takes 5 hours to get right back down to baseline. That is what went into your cell at 8 o'clock in the morning will take 25 hours to get out of your blood. So it's there all through your night, all through your sleep, and interfering with the quality of your sleep, and particularly those parts of your sleep which are essential for benefiting from the training which you've undertaken in the field. I ask students sometimes, tell me, when you've done your 5 laps around the rugby field or the football field or the GAA field, when do you think your muscles have learned the punishment that you'll be given to them has to be accommodated? In the shower, in the bar, or when you get home? Well, when you get home, yes, but only when you go to bed and get down to stage 4 sleep. It is in stage 4 sleep that your body produces growth hormone, which then tells your muscles, do you know what that Egypt was doing all day today? You better beef up because you're going to be doing it again tomorrow. Okay. And that stage 4 sleep is aborted when you take caffeine.
Right. Listen to me, Professor Darragh. I'm reading that Gay Byrne is going back to work. He should bring you back as the doctor.
They've had enough. Don't you know I was known as the caffeine addict?
Thank you so much for joining me. It is Professor Austin Darragh, and I'd like to thank you very much for what is an important contribution to health of particular young kids who engage in sports activity.